Hello, my name is Wilkerson, and I am creating this video for my Biological Science 214 Microbiology Lab class. Today we will be making an agar solution and prepping some plates as well as some glass tubes in order to put that agar solution into. My lab attire today is my regular glasses, my t-shirt with no holes, rips, or tears in it, a pair of pants that go all the way down to my shoes, also with no holes, rips, or tears in it, and a pair of closed-toed shoes in case I spill any liquids. They're not going to get on my toes, and I can get it off of my body without causing any harm. If I was in the lab and had access to, I would also be wearing some safety shields or safety goggles, as well as a long sleeve lab coat, just for further protection for myself. Now, there are some things that we will need to do in order to prep for this lab, so let's look at some of the items that is required in order to complete this lab. Okay, so in order to perform this lab, there are a few items that we're going to need. The first few items that we're going to need are plates. We will need 6 plates in total. So there's 1, there's 2, here is the third one, and then we will duplicate that, and now we have 6. Also, what we're going to need is a conical tube. We'll just use one. We're just going to be measuring out for 4 milliliters later on in the experiment anyways, so we'll just use one for this one. You're also going to need 2 test tubes. In this case, it is 2 glass test tubes. You will need a measuring cup that allows you to measure for half a cup in order to make our agar solution, which for this experiment, our agar solution is going to be Jello. So we'll need 1 packet of Jello as well. Something that you will not see here in the items list is something to boil the water in. You can use a microwave to boil your water, or you can use a cooktop stove to boil your water in, something that'll get your half a cup of water boiling, and then something to stir the Jello in with the water. So those things you won't see on the video, but those are also items that I have as well. Now, before we start messing with any of the ingredients or preparing our agar solution, we do need to wash our hands. I do not have any gloves, so we are going to pretend that I have gloves on after I wash my hands, but first I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to make sure that the water is as hot as I can stand it, so that's going to be different for everybody, but you want the water to be as hot as you can bear it, and then you want to use an antimicrobial soap in order to wash your hands. Okay, and now that the water has been turned off and my hands are washed, you just dry them with a single-use paper towel or a clean dishwash that you have close by. Okay, so before we can begin making our agar solution, we will need to prepare our test tubes. So in order to do that, we need to get our conical tube, fill it with 4 milliliters of water. After we've done that, we're going to take our test tube here, and we're going to pour our 4 milliliters of water into the test tube. This is going to allow us to mark a line on the test tube, which will show us where 4 milliliters of a liquid will be. About right there. So 4 milliliters of liquid into that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the water and pour it either back into the conical tube or down the drain in the sink, anywhere that we can dispose of water. All right, since we have done that, be very careful not to break your test tubes because that would not be a very good situation. You should now have 2 test tubes marked with 4 milliliters of water. You can pour water out of one and then pour the 4 milliliters into the second one, but either way you will end up with 2 test tubes marked at a 4 milliliter level, and then you're going to set those aside and let those air dry. Now that we've got those set up, let's move on to making our agar solution. Okay, now that we have our test tubes prepared for our agar solution, let's actually make our agar solution. So first what we're going to need is half of a cup of water. I have hot water in here, so when I go to boil it in the microwave, it boils a little faster than if I was just to use cold water. And then we also need our package of gelatin here. So I'm gonna go start boiling that water, and then we'll mix the gelatin together, and then I will see you back in just a few seconds. All right, we are back. I had boiling water before I walked over here, but it has since cooled down just a little bit, but it was boiling in the microwave. We're gonna go ahead and pour in our full packet of gelatin, and we'll need to stir it around. So I've got a little spoon here, and we're just gonna stir in order to dissolve all that gelatin mixture into the water. Okay, and now that I've got that all mixed up, I am going to transfer this liquid into a different type of measuring cup, just so it will be easier to pour into the plates and the test tubes. So let's get that poured over. Now, before we can pour this into our plates or our test tubes, we will need to let it cool just a little bit. So right now it is very much above room temperature. So we'll let it sit there for a few minutes and get down to room temperature. And then we'll come back and we'll pour it into our plates and our test tubes. Okay, now that our gelatin has cooled down to slightly above room temperature, we'll go ahead and prepare our plates first. So 6 plates we'll be preparing. All the lids are on right now. They'll be removed when we go to place the gelatin inside of the plate, and then the lid will be placed back over it so the gelatin can cool down and solidify. Now, as much gelatin as we're putting in is only going to be probably about ½ a centimeter's worth, or just enough to cover the bottom of the plate. And we'll repeat for each one. And now that the plates are completed, the remaining amount of the liquid will be put inside of the glass test tubes, and then we will prepare them for a slant test tube and then a stab test tube as well. For this one, we will be setting up a stab as well as a slant, and in order to do that, we'll take one test tube, the one that we marked with 4 milliliters, one of the ones we marked, and we're going to pour 4 milliliters of liquid into it, being our yellow jello agar. Now this one we're going to set up to be our stab. So what we're going to do is we're going to cap it like we did with our plates, and then I'm going to set it inside of another cap, and this will allow it to stand up straight and solidify like normal. Now for our slant, you're going to need one of the conical tubings. We'll be laying it on its side in order to rest the test tube up so it can get that nice slant once it solidifies. So just like the last one, we will pour 4 milliliters worth of the agar solution into the tube. And we will cap it as before. And then with this one, it will sit slanted, and it'll be left to harden like that. And from the side, it looks like this. If it will stay for me. There you go. So there's our slant. So now we have 6 plates set up. We have a test tube with 4 milliliters of Agar solution in an upright position, which will be our stab. And then we have this one that we just created with 4 milliliters of Agar solution resting on top of a conical tube in order to get us that slant test tube as well. So thank you for watching these videos. This was, again, Wesley Wilkerson creating Agar solution for BISC 214 microbiology lab class. Thank you.